you know, that is a good path that we know. We're only 3 or 4 weeks away. It was pretty much business back to normal in New Zealand this weekend. Airports were full. Guys and girls, today is a special day, and I'm pumped because coming to you on Zoom, coming to you on Facebook, I've got with me a man who is one of the founders of Anywhere Auctions, and I'm letting you know in the next hour, I'm going to give you one thing that's going to help you in front of the listing presentation, in front of the vendor, in front of 3 other agents competing for the stock. We know how hard it is to get listings at the moment, and I'm going to give you a dialogue, a piece of script, a USP that is going to knock off your competitors. But before I do that, I want to welcome on the founder. Gary, I want you to introduce yourself. I want you to tell them who you are, what you're all about. And I'm even going to get you, because I just thought to myself, I bet you I stuff up his surname. Gary, over to you. What's the surname?
Thanks, Tom. It's Giridharan. Gary Giridharan for all of you out there. Thank you for joining us this morning. I am, as Tom said, a co-founder of Anywhere Auctions, and we're very, very excited to bring this training series to life today. Just a very quick overview of Anywhere Auctions, Tom, if you'd like.
Yes, I'd love you to tell them, because, by the way, I sat quietly on the sidelines when COVID started, Gary. I sat quietly on the sidelines, and all I was doing was analyzing what's working in the world of virtual. Are we living in a world where things are going to go back to normal? Will they actually be different forever? And I was particularly focused on auctions because, Gary, as you know, auctions are a big part of my life.
Yes.
Both as a practitioner on the weekends, but also as a trainer. And for me, I wanted to see whether the public had an appetite for a virtual platform. And I wasn't convinced, because most of them appear to be clunky, they had a bit too much friction. And particularly when I'm working in marketplaces where sometimes English is a second language. And you know, I thought to myself, for this thing to work, it's got to be easy. It's got to have no friction, and it's got to help Mr. and Mrs. Chen or Mr. and Mrs. Papadopoulos or David Smith. They'd be able to do it without too much of a hassle. And I started with the customer in mind, and I'm pretty sure you did as well. But tell us, before we get onto the training, tell us a little bit about Anywhere Auction.
No, absolutely. I mean, as you said, we actually started this with the customer in mind. I mean, myself, I'm not from the real estate industry. I'm a property buyer, and that's where the journey started. I mean, what Anywhere Auctions is essentially a web and app-based platform that's designed to allow anyone that can't physically attend an auction to still be able to watch and participate online. So effectively, we allow real estate agents to sell on the auction floor and online at the same time. And we even go on to facilitate the whole transaction through features like an integrated contract signing. So really the crux of it was about bringing as many eyeballs and as many participants to your auctions as possible. And so for a buyer, it allows them to have that level of convenience where they're going, look, if I can't absolutely drop everything that I'm doing just to attend, I can still have access to your auction. And whether that's the thousands of people that actually work on Saturdays, anyone with a kid knows every kid's sports class activity happens on a Saturday, etc. And of course, your interstate buyers and your overseas buyers as well. For the vendor, it was really about providing them with a peace of mind proposition. Basically, for them, when they sign up with an agency using this service, they know they're now truly knocking on every door, leaving no stone unturned when it comes to trying to find the most number of participants for their auction. And that is very, very powerful. And of course, for the agent, it was all about trying to provide them with a competitive edge. And of course, the first tier, as I said, is in the actual listing presentation. Everyone's using the same 3 or 4 levers, as you know, Tom, but being able to provide a peace of mind proposition to the vendor is extremely powerful. Then, of course, on top of that, it was about increasing the level of exposure for these agents and to the right type of people. I mean, if people are taking time out of their day on a Saturday to watch your auction live, they're really only doing it for one of 2 reasons, right? And so these are warm leads, and we provide them at the end of every auction. And of course, we provide significant process efficiencies by digitizing the whole transaction from signing up your vendor to contract execution. So you save a lot of time and a lot of cost through the process. So yeah, all in all, a start to end process. And we're very happy to say we've recently just launched our private sale module. So now you can basically manage your entire private sale campaign from the same mobile app on your phone, on your tablet, from anywhere. Multiple offers directly onto contract, updating offers, etc. So very excited. And Tom, I just want to say we're very excited to start working with you. We're very excited to be able to bring your skill sets, your practical strategies, scripts, dialogues, etc. to our client base, because we want our clients to be at the forefront. We're here to support the industry, and this topic that you're covering today is very important, and we want to make sure the entire industry had access to it. So that's why we've opened it up. But really, we want our clients to be at the forefront of what they do, and they really always have the competitive edge. And so this is the first in a series of 12. And just to let our clients know that you will have free access to Tom going forward for the next 11 sessions as well. And for those of you who aren't our clients, if you'd like to find out more about Anywhere Auctions, please just reach out to the team. Susan will be putting some links in the box. And yeah, more than happy to have a conversation to let you know how we can be of assistance and how we can potentially provide you with a competitive edge.
And I love you, Gary, because what I've noticed about you is, yes, we are all in business to make a buck, but you don't have commission breath. You want it to be a value-driven proposition. And I've got to tell you, I'm excited, because as far as I'm concerned, like I can tell you right now, Gary, I have already had, my emails keep popping up. I already have a client that told me they went to a listing presentation and they said to the vendor the following. Everyone watching here, you might want to write this down. They said to the vendor, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm letting you know, our job is to go off and find the local buyer, out of area buyer, the passive buyer, and the active buyer. And sometimes these buyers can be really busy. And some of these buyers actually don't want to be at the property. Sometimes it's because of coronavirus, but often it's because they run a business. So what I'd like to say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is just for a little bit extra, we can actually have your buyer, who might be the emotional buyer that pays an extra 10%, bidding from their business. They don't have to risk coming to the property. And I've got to let you know that for me, that could be an extra $50,000, $100,000 we get for your property. And the fact that no other real estate agent offered that at the listing presentation, Gary, got the vendor to pick him, because listing presentations, Gary, are not 100-0. They're very close.
Yes.
And what you've got to do is look at, what is it that I can sway that person to go with me? But enough of us doing the selling. I'm going to move on to the training. I'm going to bring you in at the end, Gary, where we'll just finish off. But I'm letting everyone know, for the next 1 year, all Anywhere Auctions are going into a structured auction training program where we're going to cover the listing presentation, reserve meetings, how to actually realign vendors, how to actually keep a buyer interested through the whole 3-week process. I'm going to give you a backstage view of what I've been doing for 30 years, putting deals together in markets where I've got to tell you were recessionary markets. 1990, 91, 92, 93 is how I used the auction system to become an attraction agent. So Gary, I'll see you in about 45 minutes.
Absolutely. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to come in here, and I am going to bring myself on. Yes, we are. So Susan, can you make sure I am on pin video? Yes, we are. Hey guys and girls, we are up and we are running. And what I'm going to be doing, ladies and gentlemen, let's see, we've got a question coming in here. Work with Gary Reagan, amazing guys. Thank you. Robert Chincotta, the guy that does the deadlifts. I've never seen a guy pick up weight so big for your size, Gary. Incredible. Gary from, I believe, Ray White in South Australia. There's a happy customer. Now, guys and girls, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring in, I'm going to use a bit of the flip chart, but to start off with, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to press here, share here, come here. We are now in business, I believe. I'm going to, should I close that? No, bring here. Susan?
Yep.
Can I confirm the screen's on? We're right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. We're on the title page.
Correct.
Okay, so guys and girls, by the way, what I like about it is Anywhere Auctions takes out the friction and the resistant points in auctions, and I'm going to show you right now how to actually carry out that perfect auction listing presentation. The first thing is there are Gary's contact details. We're going to have those provided below as well, but as you can see, that's the web address and that is the contact email for him. So for me, I've got to tell you, some of the challenges that we're faced in this marketplace can be eliminated using an auction system, and I'm going to tell you why. This is one of the reasons I love auctions, and you don't have to be in Toorak or Double Bay or in a traditional auction marketplace to actually use the auction system, because one of the big advantages about auctions is that they have lower days on market than private treaty. You can go to any other data for sources, whether you go to Price Finder or CoreLogic, you will find that auctions have a lower days on market. And one of the things that I want you to start changing is the view that the day of the auction is the final result. It's not. You see, the scorecard of an auction is before, on the day, and after. And if you were to use the final result being 2 weeks after the day of the auction, you would find that the auction clearance rate for most markets is over 75%. And in many markets, closer to 95% if you were to use the scorecard as 2 weeks after the auction. So what we clearly know is that days on market are significantly lower with auctions. The next thing is higher prices. We simply know with an auction, you have got competition, and competition wins the grand final, and competition gets top dollar in real estate. And that is something that really happens in an intense, focused way with an auction. And the reason why is that you've got two elements of psychology working that allow someone to pay top dollar. One of those is called social proof. Social proof is the fact that when other people are seeing other people bidding, it says to them, hey, it must be good. It says they're taking our property. They're saying is others are going for it. So it is actually a property that is significant, right? Because they're seeing it with their own eyes. The next thing I was going to say is the element of scarcity. You see, there is nothing more powerful, and I see this every Saturday, when you're at an auction and someone else bids, what's happened is the underbidder's looking at them and they're saying, we have lost that property to that person. Let's take it back. That element of psychology is what drives prices up. And the next thing I'm going to tell you, when you're an auction agent, you actually build attraction because you've actually got more access to buyers and sellers in the marketplace. It's really simple. Why? Auctions generally have a higher level of marketing and there are more people looking at them because they know that there's a result coming in around 4 weeks. It's the auction day. People are thinking there's going to be this big day. So what happens is all the eyeballs in the area are on that property. And that means if you're a real estate agent, you're getting what is really important, and that is the attention victory. In real estate, an agent requires attention, both from buyers and from sellers. And don't get me wrong, auctions are not done because they're going to help you get more listings. They're done because you're going to get a better result for your vendor. Let me make that clear. A byproduct is that you actually start getting eminence in the marketplace. People start noticing you a lot more. And that's important because getting on the shopping list is critical in real estate. The next thing is that apart from having attraction and having access to more buyers and sellers, you actually have a deadline. So you can actually start working, as the next point is, to a structured process and know, hey, when we list auctions, we know average days on market might be 40. You can start actually running your business in a process-driven way than just spray and pray. And what actually happens is you start having this methodology. That means you list an auction, compress servicing, you service the vendor, you get the vendor realigned, you get a result within 40 days, you actually get attention and more marketing. Because one of the things about auctions is every time you list one, you seem to list more properties as a result of it. So all of a sudden, you start having a model that relies less on you doing cold prospecting and more on you doing attraction. And the next thing is that I love about it is that you've got this decision deadline. You sell a property and you don't have to go off and then sell it another 2 times because it crashes and it falls through. You know, there comes a time that property's sold, that's done, and you know you're getting paid and you know that you can move on. And I love that, because one of the challenges with private treaties is that you can have to sell a property a couple of times before you get paid. Structured process. I love the fact that you know that there are, and we're not going to cover it today because we've got 11 months of training, but in the module where we're going to talk about high-level vendor management, we know that there are 47 points of contact from the day you list the property to the day of the auction. And what happens is that these are given to you in a process-driven way, like a checklist. So that means that even if you're disorganized, even if you're one of these people that is totally unsystemized and is running around being busy, not being productive, it's going to shift, because we're going to move you into a structured process where you know at this time they get this text, at this time they get this letter, at this time they have their vendor meeting. So what actually happens is you're going to move away from being this agent that is just all over the shop, and you're going to start moving in and having the process of McDonald's in your business. That's something to be excited about. And that's going to be in one of the modules that we're going to do in the next 2 months. In addition to that, I've got to let you know that high-level vendor feedback is one of the things I love it, because you've got a vendor that's going all in. Think about it. You've got a vendor that's going all in. They don't have a plan B. They come along because they want to sell their property, and you want more of those vendors. Not these vendors that are saying, oh, let's go off market, and if you've got someone, let us know. Guys and girls, I've got to say to you, you want to make money in real estate. You want to have eminence in your marketplace. You don't want to be the real estate agent having properties on the market with 300 days on market. You want to be the agent that lists them and sells them and sends a message out there. She's the one that gets stuff sold in this market. And I've got to let you know, one of the reasons why auctions do that really well is vendors don't go in there with an intention of not selling. To me, it's the most qualified way to work out whether you've got a vendor who is serious about doing business. And then the last thing is, I'm going to say to you, you nail the auction system. And by the way, it ain't Tom Panos talking about it. Think about it. Go to the REB Top 100 and have a look. Most of those agents are using the auction system. Now, I know that there are parts of Australia where you can actually make a great living and have a great business without the auction system. But I will say to you is, what I know is those that use the auction system and use it well actually find that they do less prospecting, because the momentum and attraction and the magnetic field that's created by the auction sale is always attracting your next listing presentation. So let's move on. And I've got to let you know that for me, the auction presentation starts at the pre-list. And when I say the pre-list, this is when people call you up and they say, hey, we're letting you know. Come back in here. We're letting you know. And by the way, the reason I've got the flip chart behind me is today, I'm actually going to draw exactly what you draw to a vendor at a listing presentation. I'm actually going to draw that. And that's why I've got that chart behind me. So let me just go through the pre-list. The pre-list sounds like this. They call you up and they say, hey, I want to get an agent to come over and appraise my property. And you say, great. Can I ask your name? Tom Smith. Great. Can I ask your address? 27 Smith Street. Fantastic. And by the way, who referred you to me? Oh, I don't know. It was I got something in the letterbox. Fantastic. Can I ask you, are you guys available for me to pop out to see you today or tomorrow? Oh, today. Great. Is 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock better? 4 o'clock. Fantastic. Can I ask a few more questions about your property? Here is where what you're doing is diagnosing, and you're doing a deep dive to find out what their values are and how they feel about the current marketplace, how they feel about auctions, and how they feel about the value of their property in the marketplace. So let me run through the questions you're going to ask on that phone call. So everyone, make sure you got your pen out, because these are going to be very, very useful questions. Never forget this. $1 million agents ask questions, rookies make statements. Question number one, can I ask you a little bit about your home? Describe it to me in 30 seconds, size and presentation condition and any work you've done, and you let them go on. Whilst they're doing that, what you've done is you've got their address off them, and you've gone on to CoreLogic or Price Finder or any of the data services, and you've looked up their property, because this is going to tell you roughly the value that it falls within, roughly. Then you come back, and then what you do is you actually probe a little bit and say, and can I ask you, what's your understanding of the market at the moment? Great question. Great question. Next question. Have you ever sold a property before? Good question. Very good question. Next question. When you're looking at properties, where are you looking? What kind of media? What websites? What social media are you looking at? What you're doing is you're probing. Next one. Can I ask you, when you're looking, are you looking at private treaty and or auctions? What you're doing is sounding them out. You're sounding out the owner, right? You're sounding out the owner, and you're trying to find out what they think about it, because it is really useful to know if they turn around and, this is a really good question to work out where they're at. Have you ever sold a property before? Did you use auction or private treaty? And how did it go? It's extremely useful, extremely useful. So it's because I've got to say to you, if they turn around and they say to you, yes, we sold by auction 2 years ago and it was a disaster, it never got sold, and then we sort of sold it about 2 or 3 weeks later, but it was too stressful. That's useful for you to know, guys and girls, because if you go into that listing presentation and say auction's the only way to go, you're going to create a disconnect, because you are not talking to them in their language and in their values. But let me keep going through some of the other questions you asked at the listing presentation. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm letting you know, I've just brought your property up on CoreLogic RP data, and it's telling me that properties around your area in the last 3 months have been selling somewhere between 800 and 950. My intention is to bring properties that have sold around there in the last, say, 10 weeks. And I'm going to be looking at specifically that range. Is that a wide enough range for us to be looking at? Guys and girls, do you understand? What's happened now is you've actually fed back a figure and you shut up and you listen to what they say, because it's going to become extremely useful for you to go to a listing presentation and have an idea of where they're at, what they're thinking, right? So then you answer that one. A lot of people are going to say, oh, yeah, that's about right. Or some people are going to say, no, we would have thought over $1 million. This is useful information, because as far as I'm concerned, if you go to the property and you ask the owners, how much are you looking for? By that stage, they're going to say to you, well, you're the expert. You're here. You tell us. So that's why I like that pre-list. The next thing you do at the pre-list is you actually say to them, hey, I want to let you know, I'll be sending you a little bit of information by email, by text. You're going to send them an Outlook calendar appointment. You're going to make it easy for them. You're going to send them potentially your realestate.com promo video that says a little bit about you. That's going to give them a taste of what you look like and who you are. Usually a 90-second video. If you haven't got a video done, you should get one done. And maybe you're going to get whether you Rate My Agent or your realestate.com past testimonial sellers. And I also think it's not a bad idea to actually send them a blank copy of an agency agreement. And the reason I say that is that in a world of transparency, providing people useful information to actually know that this is the paperwork that's required to sign when you put your property on the market. You don't have to fill it out. You don't have to go in and put your commission and, method of sale and, the advertising costs, but providing to them upfront is a useful thing. So that's your pre-list. Because if you've been able to work out roughly the range they're looking at, if you've been able to diagnose, have they sold the property before and how did it go, you're going to work out what they like and what they didn't like. And then if you've been able to also confirm to them, and sorry, I missed a question. How did I miss this question? This is the most critical question of the lot. You've got to ask this question at some point, and I think pre-listing is the best. Have you guys made the decision that you will be appointing an agent in the near future? That question there, my friends, is basically working out, are they an immediate seller or a future seller? I'm going to repeat that question again. Write it down. Staring down the camera, listen to me. Write it down. Have you made the decision that you'll be appointing an agent in the near future? That's not saying, are you going to list with me? That's not even saying, are you going to sell? That's actually saying, is your property coming on the market? And I think this is really important because this is going to help you then move into either an immediate seller listing presentation or whether you're just giving them a health update on the value of their property and just giving them an idea of the market. Because if that's the case, it's a different approach. You're not going to go deeper into commission and advertising. All you're going to do is try and build a really good relationship and begin what I call permission nurture marketing, where you can stay in contact with them until they do come onto the market. So guys and girls, that's the pre-list. I want to share my screen again, and I want to let you know that after we've done that, the next thing that we do is the actual listing presentation. And this is the point, guys and girls, where I'm going to actually maybe stop sharing. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So guys and girls, this is the most important part of the presentation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this video to make sure that you're all good. I'm going to move on here. And Susan, I'm going to ask your feedback. Is that reasonable? Okay, can people see that? There we go. That means Susan's not there. Anyway, let me move on. So what I'm going to do now, guys and girls, is I want to actually show you. This is what you draw up at the listing presentation. Get ready for it. Okay, thank you, Michael. Thank you. So here's how it works. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor. Let's move that mic up a bit higher. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm going to let you know. Here is the value of your property, 100%. Our job is to try and get you 10% more. That is our job. And we know to get that 10%, what we've got to do is a process. And it is the process and not the promise of a price that's going to get you top dollar. And the way that we're going to get you this is the following way. But I want to let you know, you mentioned a figure of 800 to 950 as being sort of a range that your property's sort of in there. But here's how it works. Let me tell you, in real estate, there are three prices. There is what I call an emotional price. There is what I call a probable price. And there is what I call a bargain hunter's price. And our job is to go out there and get you an emotional figure. Now listen to me, you draw this there at the listing presentation like an architect drawing a plan for an owner to build a dream home. You don't want to sit there and become too techie and too iPad-ish. What you want to do is you want to draw this up to show that you're an authentic professional that does things on the run for them, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to say, and our job is to go out there and to get that emotional buyer who will be 10% more. And I can tell you on the value of your property, that could be an extra $80,000. And what I like to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, is this. The way that we're going to do it is we're going to go out into the marketplace and we're going to find what I call the local buyer, the out-of-area buyer, the passive buyer, and the active buyer. These are the 4 buyers in the marketplace that are going to look at your property. The local buyer currently lives in the suburb. The out-of-area buyer, well, they might be living in, if you're in Sydney, they might be living in Melbourne, or they could be in Brisbane, or they could be in New Zealand, they could be overseas. Then you've got what I call the active buyer. This is the buyer that is sitting there looking at realestate.com 24/7. They are studying every home that comes onto the market because they're obsessed with real estate at this time. And then you've got the passive buyer. They're sort of looking on and off. They're not really full on, but if they see a property that pops up on their Facebook timeline that excites them, they might take the next step and go in and look at it. And I've got to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, our job is to go off there and find all these 4 buyers. And I've got to let you know, I don't know where your best buyer is going to come from. And our job in real estate is to sell it to the best buyer, not the first buyer. And I've got to tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, that the way that we're going to do it is a technique that is called no price marketing. Let me show you how it works. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, if we were to go along and put your property on the market, say, and we were to put your property on the market at, say, 970, we might get a trickle of people looking at it, but we won't get much. Alternatively, if we were going to go put your property on the market at, say, 890,000, right? We would get inundated with people, because what we clearly know is this: the higher the price, the lower the number of people that look at it. The lower the price, the more people look at it. So what we've learned in real estate that works really good is that what we do is we take off the price. We have no price there. And what we do is we get every person that is looking for a 4-bedroom home in Leichhardt to come and look at your property. We don't let price affect them, because what we know is we need to go out there with a big net in the ocean and pull out all the buyers. Because what we use with this no price marketing technique is what John West Tuna does. We go off, we pull out all the tuna. We keep the best and we reject the rest. That's what we do. And I've got to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm going to actually show you how we do that. And the way that we do that is this: we go off and we put your property on realestate.com. We put your property on Domain. We actually put your property in our own agent website. In addition to that, we actually get your property and we get a video done. We put it on Facebook. We might do some traditional print media, brochure, a property guide. In addition to that, we might actually end up getting Deer Creek, which is basically walkthroughs of properties. And in addition to that, we're going to do a letterbox drop of a just listed, right? And in addition to that, we might put it on, say, Instagram. And in addition to that, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, we're going to actually have what I call remote bidding. You see, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, there are some people that, have you noticed something? I haven't even mentioned the word auction yet. And the reason why is I wanted to do this presentation in a marketplace that might be sort of resistant to auction. Hey, when you've got auctions as the way it's done, you don't have to actually go through this. You can go straight into it. But what I've done here is deliberately held off from using the word auction, because a lot of people don't understand this technique of no price marketing. And what you do is, if you can sort of bring them in slowly without using the word, they start understanding the value of the process. And never forget, it's the process and not the promise of a price that's going to get your vendor top dollar. And what I'm doing is going through the process. And as you can see, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, we're going to actually then have what we call anywhere auctions, which allows someone to bid on your property and they don't even have to be there. They might run a business. They might actually have school sport on and they can't attend the property. And then, of course, we've got the auctioneer. And at this point, they might turn around and say, you're talking about an auction. You say, yeah, well, that's what I can pretty much tell you no price marketing is. What we do is we go out there, big net, pull out all the buyers, get the best to fight over it, and then we keep the best, and that's how we get you top dollar. Because I've got to tell you, competition is what wins golds at Olympic Games, and competition will get us a top dollar in Leichhardt for you. And I've got to say to you, the next thing that you've got to do then, and I'm going to move into the PowerPoint deck, and I hope that you're able to grasp those diagrams that I just actually went through for you. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a share screen, come back here. As you can see there, that's the dialogue that I used there. I'm going to move on and I'm going to actually show you some of the other things that, you know, you're drawing up the 4 buyer types. Remember that: local, out of area, active, and passive. Your job is to get the best buyer, not the first buyer. And don't forget, here's another good piece of dialogue. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, if we don't use 100% of the resources available to us, how will we achieve 100% in the potential of the value of your property? I also find that using case studies is extremely useful in getting someone to actually go in and want to actually use the auction system. So what do? You pick a few properties that are the most relevant to the one that you're pitching, and you have a breakout box down the bottom where it's nice and simple for them to understand the basic KPIs of that property. Of course, you pick success stories and you cover marketing, investment, you cover, you know, how many buyers saw it, you know, the price guide, what it sold for, where the buyer first said they saw it. So you have a couple of, you know, case studies, and they case studies. Never forget this: case studies sell, stories sell, facts tell. Be a good storyteller. Critical. The next thing you do is you actually have a bidder's template. I'm going to move this behind me now so I've got a little bit more room. Oops. How are we going there? Perfect. Great. So all I've got to say to you is the bidder's template is a fantastic document to have. What the bidder's template allows you to do is actually show an example of a property, a case study, and say, see that? These properties here, 27 Smith Street went to auction. This is the bidder, this is the bid, and this is where they saw the property. So use case studies, because what you want to show them is every time you take away a source of marketing is you take away a bidder. And every time you take away a bidder, you take away the bid. Guys and girls, super critical. Now, the next thing is having what I call a dashboard. A dashboard shows people what the last 6 properties that you sold, when their method of sale, you know, what they sold for, what the marketing investment was. Is you want to show people that what you're doing is putting them through a process that others have gone through. Nothing is more powerful than a past track record of case studies. Stories sell, facts tell. Be a good storyteller. And then the last slide here, guys and girls, is what I call your last 10 sales, where you have the last 10 properties you sold and the marketing investment that they had. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to let you know that many of the real estate agents that I know that are really successful at using the auction system are getting a quick video of an auction that they've done. They're having it edited to around 90 seconds. And then at a listing presentation, they'll pull out their phone. And what they'll do is they'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, what I'd like to do is just run you through this property. We first listed it and the owners were hoping to get $800,000. And I want to let you know that they invested $6,000 in marketing. Let's have a quick look at this property that was using Anywhere Auction as its platform to allow bidders to bid from not being at the property. Let's have a look at it. And what you do is you actually show them. Now, those of you that are Anywhere Auction clients, I can tell you that Gary and his team have got available for you a quick 90-second video of a property that has used the system where it's very engaging. It shows how people are bidding while they're not at the property. It shows the bid shows up on the screen, and it ends up becoming a fantastic result. And I've got to tell you, do not underestimate the power of success videos in influence. Now, guys and girls, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to bring Gary back in, but I'm just going to run through some of the scripts and dialogues that I think is extremely useful for you using the auction system. Number one, when you're talking to them about the marketing, and you saw that I had marketing, where I had realestate.com domain and all those other elements there, here's a good piece of dialogue. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, we've got to make sure that our online and offline are in line. Another piece of dialogue is this: Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, marketing works in combination, not in isolation. Another very powerful piece of dialogue to ensure that you get more marketing, or even, you know, the fee for Anywhere Auctions, which I'm going to get, you can talk that up with Gary, but it's only a couple of $100. What you turn around and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, what's more important to you? The risk of over marketing by a few $100, or the risk of underselling by $50,000? And I've got to say to you, people respond to that, because we as human beings will do anything to protect the value of our home. In fact, we're prepared to spend money marketing because it's taking out insurance that we don't undersell the biggest asset that we own. Guys and girls, I'm going to now open it up to allow anyone to ask me some questions. And Vincent has said, can you repeat the 4 buyer types? I'm going to repeat those. And that is, number one, the local buyer, the out of area buyer, the passive buyer, and the active buyer. Now, guys and girls, is there any questions, anything you want to ask me? Please just go into the chat box and type it in there, please. Please go in there. Are we able to get a copy of the slides of the presentation from Adam Dopping? Yes, we can. Yes, I will provide it. Then we've got Karen Phillips, script for when another company is paying for the marketing themselves. Okay, well, let's talk about that for a moment. So that's come from Karen. Karen, when another company is paying for the marketing, what you should be saying to them is this. Now, let me just bring up this slide. Now, do you remember this slide here where I actually sat there and I drew up the people saying, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to let you know, whilst a real estate company, a competitor might say that they're going to pay for the advertising, what you don't want to do is be a guinea pig and go in for what I call an agent's campaign, not a vendor's campaign. An agent's campaign is basically going to just do the basics and make you happy. My job is to actually get you exhilarated with the final figure that we get, and you point your finger towards the top. And the way that we're going to do it is we're going to get everyone to come and look at these properties. Everyone to come and look at this property, because I've got to let you know, every time we take some of the marketing away, we're taking away these bidders. And what I can't tell you is where our best bidder is going to come from. And all I can say to you is that when you go for a real estate agent that actually pays for the marketing, they have a conflict of interest. You see, all they want to do is sell your property to the first buyer, not the best buyer, because they want to recoup the money that they've actually spent. Whereas when you go with me, I'm going to separate the marketing and the actual commission, because my job is to get you the best price. And I don't want marketing to cloud any of my moral responsibilities to you. Okay, another question from Rick, who says, if the client asks you, is auction whilst in the middle of the pitch, do you tell them yes? If they are still against auction after the pitch, would you go back and do the pitch again? Okay, good question. If they ask you, is this auction, say, yes, it is. But what I wanted to do is actually introduce it to you, because really what auction is something that's been used thousands and thousands of years. And that is to get the person that's got the most money, that wants it the most, to actually pay the most. And all I wanted to show you is that we don't want to get priced getting in the way of us finding that person. Because I want you to know, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, people filter on realestate.com with the brain, but they buy with their heart. We need to tap into their heart. There's a saying, if you want to win share of wallet, you must win share of heart. And that's why I've actually wanted to introduce you to this process. But I can tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, if you actually have this strong resistance to it, I'm happy to go with you at what you want to do and see how we go. So to Rickers, let me tell you, there's a saying, don't fight without control. So if there is tension there and you can tell that they are really resistant, lay off. Meet people where they're at. Do what they want to do, and then you can come back and you can revisit it. You can revisit it. Michael Vituro, good to see you, Michael. Yes, I'm referring to an auction. What do you think about the auction process and strategy? What do I think about it? Personally, I think that some properties are not suited to auction, but I think that many are. And I actually think that real estate agents that can learn the art of listing them properly, but more importantly, and that's going to be covered over the next 11 months, how to actually handle an auction sale, like the prices that you're quoting, you know, what is actually done in the marketing. How do you actually get people to come to the property? How do you get people to come in and then get emotional, right? And I've got to let you know, everything I talk about is totally within the law. I'm totally against the, you know, underquoting or, you know, price baiting. So Luke has asked, if you're just starting out and you're looking for your first auction, any advice, Mr. Panos? Thank you for calling me Mr. Panos. Hardly anyone does. And if they turn around and say, what experience you have? So, all right. Beautiful. Fantastic. Beautiful. Beautiful, Michael. If you're starting and you're looking for your first, so any advice on tips, Mr. Panos? If they turn around and say, what experience do you have? I've got to tell you, when you're new in real estate, you take the word I and you change it to we. This is the experience we have. They need to know that you're not on your own, that you work in an office as a team, right? So guys and girls, I'm going to now bring my Gary. Can I get Gary back in, Susan? Can I get Gary back in? Because I think we've got everything there. Gary, I'll bring you back in while that's happening. Will this be loaded up in the gym? Yes, it will. So Gary, bring him up here. I'm going to pin your video so you're the star. Gary, so today is part one of, you know, a big 12 months ahead, right? Today we covered the listing presentation. We're going to provide these slides to your clients, right?
Yes.
And my plan is to make sure that if you're an Anywhere auction client, that you're also going to be BIW, best in the world at the process, you know? So Gary, what did you think of that?
I think it was fantastic. It was very educational for myself as well, Tom. I'm not an agent, but I could see a lot of good takeaways from there, from the scripts to the types of buyers. You know, the no price marketing, that's a new concept to me, but I could see a lot of value there. And I'm sure that a lot of the people that were watching here, or all of the people that were watching here, got a lot of benefit out of that. So Tom, firstly, thank you so much for providing your insights and education to everybody that's watching today. I'd also like to thank everyone that was watching today. Thank you for your time and your attendance to our clients. Look, this is just the first part of our commitment. As Tom has said, this is going to be ongoing for a big 12 months, and we'll let you know about what's coming around the corner, but we're very excited to keep doing this, and as Tom said, get you guys at the forefront of what you're doing. For those of you who aren't our clients, we hope you benefited from this. If you'd like to find out more about Anywhere Auctions and how we can assist you, how we can provide you with a competitive edge, please just reach out to the team. Susan will be providing some contact details there. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you guys. But overall, Tom, that was fantastic.
All righty. And I've got to tell you, Hey, Carlene. Hey to everyone that joined in, and share the video. Those of you on Facebook, I think we're going to get 10,000 people that would have tuned into this. And obviously, not all of those are clients or will become clients, but I can pretty much tell you, I look at my real estate gym members, the best of the best, particularly the ones in Victoria. They absolutely adore having this toolkit as part of their listing presentation, because they know when they're sitting there in front of a vendor and they know that there's $20,000 commission at stake, they know that they need that little thing that's going to tip that person over the line. Being able to say, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to let you know, I want to show you something that is going to help you get you a 10% premium. And particularly now that we know that people are concerned about social distancing, what I want to show you is something that's been working really well, and they introduce them to the system. Anyway, enough said. Guys and girls, I want to thank you so much. Yes, it was a bit of a promotion. I get it, but you can tell during that 45, 50 minutes we were together, most of it was training and information, right? And if you don't need the system or you're not into options, it was good seeing you anyway. So guys and girls, signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.